Welcome to Diana the Storyteller. Hurry, let's get to the story. It was just another ordinary Tuesday at the headquarters of Holston Enterprises, one of the most successful tech companies in Silicon Valley. The open plan office was filled with the hum of productivity, employees typing furiously at their computers, phones ringing, and the occasional murmur of a conversation. At the heart of the bustling office sat a woman who wasn't just another employee. Sarah Miller, a single mother of two, had been working at Holston for 5 years. She was a customer relations manager, known for her dedication, attention to detail, and unwavering work ethic. Sarah had been through a lot in her life, raising her kids while working long hours to make ends meet, never once complaining. But lately, things had started to take a turn. It had all started when Holston Enterprises hired a new CEO, Derek Holston Jr., the son of the company's founder. Derek was everything you'd expect a tech CEO to be: young, charismatic, and incredibly ambitious. But there was something about him that rubbed everyone the wrong way. He was known for his cold, almost calculating demeanor, and his preference for making ruthless decisions. And then came the day that changed everything. It was mid-morning when Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from her babysitter read, "Emergency. The kids are sick. I can't watch them today." Panic surged in Sarah's chest. She immediately texted back, promising to leave work early. The last thing she needed was a crisis at home. But as a single mother, it was often a juggling act between being there for her kids and meeting the demands of her job. Unfortunately, Derek had no patience for excuses. As Sarah walked toward the break room, she overheard two coworkers whispering about Derek's latest decision. They'd heard rumors that he was planning to fire someone before the end of the week. Sarah didn't think much of it at the time. After all, she'd been with the company for years. She was a top performer, reliable, dedicated, and an invaluable asset to the team. But as the day wore on, Sarah's anxiety grew. Her boss, Lisa, had pulled her aside for a quick meeting just after lunch. "Sarah," Lisa started, her tone unusually soft, "Derek wants to see you in his office." Sarah's heart sank. She tried to shake off the feeling, but the dread gnawed at her. It was rare for Derek to even speak to her directly. When she walked into his sleek, glass-walled office, Derek barely looked up from his computer. "Sit down," he said briskly, his voice as cold as the room. Sarah took a seat across from him, trying to steady her nerves. "I've been reviewing performance reports," Derek began, clicking through files on his screen. "And it's clear to me that, while you've been here for a while, you haven't been able to keep up with the pace of the company's growth. Your department's numbers are down, and I can't have that. I'm sorry, but we're letting you go." Sarah felt the world tilt. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "But, Derek, I've been here for 5 years. I've worked hard. I'm just a little behind because I had to leave early today to take care of my sick kids," she stammered. Derek's eyes hardened, his gaze never leaving the screen. "I don't care about your personal life. This is a business, not a daycare. If you can't balance your responsibilities, then you don't belong here." The words stung more than she expected. She'd always known that Derek was cold, but she never thought he could be this heartless. She blinked back tears, her thoughts racing. How would she tell her kids? How would she manage now? The reality of being a single mother without a job hit her hard. But Derek wasn't done. "I'll have security escort you out. You'll receive your severance, but that's it." The door shut behind her with a final thud. Sarah sat in her car for a long time, tears rolling down her cheeks, the weight of the world pressing on her chest. She had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and now it was all gone. Sarah sat in her car, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as she tried to gather herself. She couldn't afford to break down. Not now. But as she wiped the tears away, her thoughts raced. She had worked tirelessly for this company, given them her all. And for what? A cold dismissal because she had to leave early to care for her sick children? Taking a deep breath, Sarah started the car and drove home, each mile feeling like an eternity. Her mind kept replaying the conversation with Derek, his words echoing in her head. "This is a business, not a daycare." The phrase stung like a slap to the face. He had no idea what it was like to struggle. He didn't understand the sacrifices she made daily to keep her family afloat. When she got home, her kids were waiting for her, looking up at her with tired eyes. Jacob, her 10-year-old son, was sitting on the couch with a blanket around him, and Emma, her 8-year-old daughter, was curled up beside him. "Mom, are you okay?" Emma asked softly, her voice full of concern. Sarah forced a smile, but it was hollow. "I'm fine, sweetheart," she said, walking over to kiss both of their foreheads. "Just a rough day at work." But as she sat down with them, she knew she couldn't lie. They deserved to know the truth, even if it meant breaking their hearts. She took a deep breath and told them what had happened. "I lost my job today," she said quietly. Jacob's eyes widened in confusion. "But why, Mom? You've always been the best at your job." Sarah smiled at him, proud of his words, but the sadness she felt was undeniable. "Sometimes people make decisions that don't make sense," she said, trying to explain. "And sometimes those decisions hurt, but we have to keep going." Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a text from her best friend, Laura. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry, Sarah. You don't deserve that, but I know you'll bounce back." Sarah sighed, knowing that Laura was right. She would bounce back. She had no choice. Her kids needed her, and she couldn't afford to wallow in self-pity. But the next step was unclear. She needed a plan. Later that evening, after putting the kids to bed, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, scrolling through job listings. It felt overwhelming. There were so many options, but nothing that seemed to fit her skills and experience. She had worked at Holston for so long that the thought of starting over was intimidating, but she had to try. As she scrolled, her mind kept returning to Derek. He had shown no mercy, no understanding, and it burned her up inside. He had so much power, and he had used it to break her. But what if he got a taste of his own medicine? That thought lingered in her mind for days. Sarah didn't usually think this way. She wasn't the type to hold grudges or plot revenge. But something about Derek's coldness, his indifference to the struggle of working mothers, made her want to make him feel what she had felt. It wasn't about the money or the job. It was about respect. It was about showing him that people like her weren't just disposable. That karma had a way of catching up with those who thought they could treat others like they didn't matter. The next week, Sarah received a phone call from a recruiter at a competing tech company. They had seen her resume and they were impressed. After several rounds of interviews, Sarah was offered a position at a much higher salary than her old job, with better benefits and more flexibility. It was everything she needed. It was a new beginning. But she didn't stop there. One afternoon, Sarah received an email from an anonymous source. It was a detailed account of Derek's questionable business practices over the past few years, allegations of unethical dealings, under-the-table deals, and a series of firings that left families in financial ruin. The email included confidential company documents as evidence, as well as a few carefully worded legal threats. The sender had done their homework, and they wanted Sarah to know that they weren't the only ones who had suffered under Derek's leadership. It was clear that someone was out for revenge. It didn't take long before the story made its way to the press. The next thing Sarah knew, Derek's face was plastered on the news, alongside allegations that threatened to destroy his reputation and career. The company's board of directors launched an investigation into his practices, and within weeks, Derek was fired. Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. The man who had fired her without a second thought, the man who had made her feel insignificant, was now the one facing consequences for his actions. Her phone rang that evening. It was Laura. "Sarah, did you hear? Derek's out. He's gone. All of his shady deals are coming to light. It's like karma just hit him full force." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and triumph. I guess it finally caught up with him. A few weeks later, Sarah was starting to settle into her new job. She had already clicked with her new team, and her boss trusted her a lot. Everything was going well, but there was something missing. She still couldn't shake the feeling. The words Derek had said to her when he fired her were still in her head. "This is a job, not babysitting." One morning, Sarah was sitting at a cafe near her old office, sipping on her coffee from her new job, trying to relax. That's when she saw someone walk in who made her stop mid-sip. She froze. It was Derek. For a second, time felt like it stopped. She wasn't sure what to do. Should she walk over to him? After all these years, was she ready to finally confront him? She thought about it for a moment. I have to do this. I need closure. Derek walked into the cafe and made his way to the back, not noticing her at first. Sarah, though, got up from her seat and stepped right in front of him. When Derek looked up and saw her, his face briefly froze in surprise before he quickly slipped back into his usual arrogant smile. "Sarah," Derek said, as if they had just bumped into each other last week. "What a surprise! How's everything going? I hope things are working out." Sarah took a deep breath, looking him right in the eyes, and replied, "I've been meaning to talk to you, Derek." Derek gave her a casual smile, but there was a hint of smugness in it. "Yeah, of course. You probably owe me for getting you fired, huh?" Sarah shook her head, her gaze steady. "Every time you say that, I remember that day, Derek, but I want to see more from you now. I mean, we all know everything has a price, right?" Derek hesitated for a second. He clearly hadn't expected Sarah to confront him like this. They stood there for a moment, just staring at each other, before he tried to speak again. "Well, you know how life works, Sarah," Derek said slowly. "Sometimes people come and go, and, well, that's just business, right?" Sarah gave a small, almost amused smile. "I wanted to talk to you about this because now you'll finally understand what I mean. I didn't just go away, Derek. Quite the opposite. I left you behind. And what's happening to you now? You've got what you deserve." Derek's face went a little pale, but he quickly regained his usual confident, arrogant demeanor. "What happened to you, Sarah? I didn't expect you to change this much." Sarah took another step closer, her voice firm. "I took the time to really see people for who they are, Derek. You've hurt so many people over the years, and now it's all catching up with you. Everyone's secrets eventually come to light." Derek paused, swallowing hard. His arrogance was faltering, but he still tried to keep his mask on. "Well," he started, clearly trying to recover, "I guess you got lucky, huh?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. "No, Derek, luck didn't do this for me. Hard work did. You see, you were too focused on your own ego, and now it's biting you back." Derek stared at her for a moment, and Sarah could see the uncertainty in his eyes. She had won this conversation, no doubt about it, but she wasn't done yet. "Everything has a price, Derek, and trust me, you'll be paying yours for a long time." A long silence passed between them. Derek stood there, unable to come up with a good comeback. But Sarah, she didn't need to say anything more. This conversation had been the closure she needed. With that, Sarah turned and walked out of the cafe, her steps confident. She was done with the past. It wasn't about what Derek thought anymore. She was moving on, stronger than before. She had reclaimed her power, and nothing was going to hold her back now. That encounter with Derek was a turning point for Sarah. From that day on, she watched him crumble while her own life got better and better. And no matter what happened, karma had a funny way of working things out. Sarah was now free, strong, and ready to leave everything she had been through behind. Thanks for watching until the end. I'm Diana, and I'll be back every day with a new inspiring story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support me. Take care.